People have criticized the new Super Mario Bros. Series for being more of the same, and Super Mario Maker, while a great creative tool that's given us the Mario levels of our dreams, is now a known quantity. We come to a point now where the next 2D Mario is really going to have to innovate, and here are a few ways to do just that. Plain and simple, a new look for 2D Mario would be a huge step toward making the series feel fresh again. Whether that's going back to using 2D sprites, experimenting with a mix of 2D and 3D, going really off the rails and shifting to an illustrated style like Paper Mario, or even if it's just adding additional costumes. One thing's for sure, it can't keep the new Super Mario Bros. Art style it's had for the last 10 years. Zelda has changed, Metroid has changed, heck, even 3D Mario has changed. So odds are a new 2D Mario will finally get a visual upgrade too. While a new look would be nice, a new 2D Mario could also be inspired by one of Mario's previous 3D adventures. What if the next 2D game was a spiritual successor to Super Mario Odyssey? Maybe it's not the Odyssey 2 we've been clamoring for, but you can't deny a 2D Mario side-scroller with levels set in that game's various kingdoms would be amazing. We could even fight one of the Brutals at the end of each world, just like in the original game. Most importantly though, an Odyssey-inspired 2D game would allow Mario to utilize Cappy in a 2D space. He could throw Cappy to hit blocks, switches, or enemies in front of him. And of course, Cappy could still capture enemies, allowing Mario to gain their powers. Capture a frog to jump over high ledges. Capture a bullet bill to zoom forward, taking out enemies in your path. They wouldn't even have to reinvent the wheel here. Just seeing the Odyssey capture mechanics translated to a 2D platformer would feel fresh enough to warrant a brand new game on their own. And it's not just Odyssey that Nintendo could translate to 2D. What if we got a Mario Sunshine spiritual successor, set on Isle Delfino that makes use of FLUDD's various nozzles? Or a low-gravity planet-hopping platformer inspired by the Galaxy games? Let's now talk about one of the coolest new additions to Mario Maker 2, the Super Hammer. Out of all power-ups that already exist, I think this one has by far the most potential for an official 2D Mario game. The Super Hammer transforms Mario into Builder Mario, and lets him swing it around as a melee weapon. More importantly though, it allows him to generate up to 5 crates at a time that can be used as additional platforms or to solve puzzles. Even if left untouched, the Super Hammer could allow for some really creative puzzle levels in an official game. But what if it was taken even further? It could potentially allow Mario to stop time for a few seconds and bring the Mario Maker UI onto the screen, giving the player a short window of time to draw whatever level elements they'd like. Say you're playing a level and find a gap that's too wide to cross. Then activate Builder Mode to place a platform over the gap. You come across a ledge that's too tall to jump over, then use it to summon a trampoline that will give you extra height on your jump. This type of thing would add more of a puzzle platforming spin to 2D Mario, which could be a really interesting change. I could even see Nintendo building an entire game around it. It would have to be implemented very carefully though. Maybe Mario would lose the power-up after a single use, or it would only be usable in certain locations in order to maintain balance. Regardless, this would be a great way to innovate 2D Mario gameplay, while at the same time being a nod to the awesome Maker titles that have come before it. Things like the Maker mechanic are really fun to think about because they would introduce brand new core ideas to Mario platforming. In the past, Mario has been the game everyone else takes inspiration from, but now I think the shoe's on the other foot, and there's room for Mario to borrow ideas and mechanics from other recent games. What if Mario had a dash like in Celeste or Hollow Knight? What about a Donkey Kong Country style roll that picks up speed as you knock into enemies? Or a slide like in Metroid Dread, allowing him to quickly squeeze into tight spaces? But all of these are borrowed ideas. Nintendo developers could think up some new control ideas as well, and it wouldn't shock me if we soon got an innovative new 2D Mario title that ends up inspiring a whole new generation of games after it. Surprisingly, throughout most of his 2D history, Mario has stayed on foot. Sure, he rides Yoshi in Super Mario World and most of the games to follow, and even the Koopa Troopa car from Mario Maker 2 is a step in this direction, but I think there's potential for a lot more. In a new game, Mario could take inspiration from the Donkey Kong Country series, and tame a few rideable beasts to help him on certain stages. We already have the Jaxi and Glydon from Odyssey that could be adapted easily over to a 2D game, and some stages could also feature a car or aircraft, just to help mix things up a bit. Just keep us out of a minecart, because we don't want to completely rip off DK. Through the years, we've seen Mario with dozens of power-ups, from fire flowers to propeller mushrooms to bee suits. But what if one day he just picks up a real weapon? The reveal of a 2D Mario game where he hacks and slashes his way through waves of enemies using a katana would break the internet. And it's just crazy enough to be something the creative minds at Nintendo could potentially consider. And this wouldn't have to end with giving Mario a sword. We could potentially see the return of his blasters from the Mario Rabbids series, which would allow Mario to shoot at enemies from afar. Adding weapons like this would give the game more of an action platformer feel, which might be too much of a departure from the norm. But if you're really calling for a shake-up to the 2D Mario series, this is certainly a way to do it. I'm not saying this is a change I would necessarily like for 2D Mario, but it would definitely get the people talking. And rounding out our list is the addition of a bold new playable character. It can't just be another run-of-the-mill addition though. A new character would only be interesting if they provide a brand new approach to gameplay. I'm thinking about a character select similar to Mario 2, but on an even bigger scale. For example, Donkey Kong could bring DKC style controls into the Mario universe for the first time, creating the ultimate crossover in 2D Nintendo platforming. Wario as a playable character could introduce his iconic shoulder charge or maybe even his motorcycle into the world of 2D Mario. And if he's not the main villain, maybe we could even play as Bowser in a 2D game for the first time, breathing fire on any enemies that get in our way. The beauty of the Mario universe is that it's so versatile. Pretty much no idea here is off the table. And I'm just hoping a new game is announced soon so we can finally see what Nintendo has in store for the plumber's next adventure.